looks like it's recording. All right, so let's get started. So here's our agenda for the training. I'm going to share with you some background on why the leave form is moving from Forms Online to MyInfoVault. I'm going to talk about some of the changes to the leave request form. I'll share some resources we've developed and show you where to find them. I'm also going to do 2 demonstrations. First, I'll demonstrate how an academic would go about creating a new leave request for themselves, and then I'll demonstrate how a staff person in the department or dean's office would create a leave request for academics in their unit. So you're welcome to stay for all or part of the demonstration. If you're an academic, we won't be offended if you drop off of the call after the first demonstration. You can also feel free to stick around for after the demonstration to ask questions. And like I mentioned before, if you have any questions during the demo, feel free to type them into chat and Michelle will catch them. A reminder that this session is about using the leave form in MIV and it's not about policy. So if you have policy questions, they should be directed to your department staff and or your dean's office staff if you're in the department. So for some background, leaves have been routing in Forms Online since around 2011, but the technology the system is based on has become outdated and hasn't been supported on campus for about a year. In fact, in some cases, we've had to regress to paper forms being submitted because issues in Forms Online couldn't be resolved. Another reason for the change is that Forms Online is dependent on PPS, which is our current payroll system, and Forms Online will not be compatible with UCPath, which is the payroll system we're going to be moving to this spring. There are several reasons MyInfoVault was chosen as the new home for the leave form. MIV already has a mechanism for routing and approval. Our users are already familiar with the system. And once leave requests are approved, they can be fed directly into the applicant's electronic personnel file. I should also mention that all forms are being moved out of Forms Online, not just the leave form. They're all going to different places. MIV is going to take on one other form in the next couple of months, and that's the near relatives form. So that'll be coming possibly by the end of the year. Okay. You'll notice as we go through the form, there's a few changes to the leave form. One change is that we'll be using the UCPath leave types, and you'll notice there are a lot more UCPath leave types than PPS leave types. You'll also notice that the UCPath leave types are much more specific and are easier to understand. However, you'll see in the demonstration that even though we're going to be using the UCPath leave types, the form will also display the corresponding PPS leave type, and this will be true until we go live with UCPath. Another change to the leave form is that we've added a few new leave types for what we call record-keeping leaves. Record-keeping leaves aren't required by policy, but our campus requires them, so we know where when you're traveling for insurance purposes. So an example of a record-keeping leave would be education abroad. The next change has to do with leave dates. The current form only has a begin date and a return date. The UCPath is going to require paid period dates and service period dates, so we're including both sets of dates on the form. Our office is developing a tool that will help departments figure out what the pay period dates should be for academic year appointees, and more information will be coming out about this soon. Another change is that in Forms Online, only faculty could start sabbaticals, but an MIV staff will be able to start them on the academic's behalf. Academics will also have to sign off on each leave request. This is how it was done in paper, and somehow we got away with not complying with that in Forms Online, but we're moving back to complying with the requirement in MIV. If an academic is incapacitated and unable to sign off on a form, staff will be able to sign on their behalf, except for sabbaticals. And finally, for sabbaticals, staff used to have to calculate a carry forward, and they would have to enter the carry forward on the leave form, and they would upload their calculations of how they got the carry forward. But in MIV, you're not going to have to do that. You will just enter the number of sabbatical credits being used for the leave. And when the form is approved and sent to AFID is going to do the math and will calculate the carry forward. You might remember we had a big project many months ago where we calculated sabbatical credits for every academic on campus. So they're being stored in AFID, and so that's a huge benefit. As for resources, we've posted some training material on our website, which can be found at the link shown here, right here. There are user guides, which are step-by-step instructions for how to create a leave as an academic. There's one for how to create a leave as a staff person, and there's one for how to approve a leave if you are in an approver role, so if you're a department chair or a dean. We're also recording these presentations, like I mentioned, and we'll post at least one of them to our website. And finally, there's a chart for converting Forms Online leave types to MIV or UC Pass leave types. The conversion chart will be helpful for staff if you know what kind of leave you would have created in Forms Online and you want to see what the equivalent type is in MIV with the UC Pass leave types. On November 1st, we're going to post an updated delegation of authority for leaves to our website. The actual delegations aren't changing, but we've updated the delegation to include the new leave types. Also, in the upper right-hand corner of every MIV page, there's a help link. If you click on that link, you're taken to the MIV help files, which gives instructions and information on all of MIV's features. And we're going to be adding a help file for managing leaves in the next couple of days. And again, for policy questions, if you're an academic, you should contact your department's academic personnel staff. If you're a staff member in a department, you should contact your dean's office. And if you're in a dean's office, you can contact the appropriate blue or gold box in academic affairs. And finally, if you run into technical problems or have questions when using the leave form, such as like you're getting an error when you try to submit a form, or you're having trouble logging in, you can contact the MIV help desk, and both Michelle and I work on the help desk, and we can assist you. And here is the email. You just send an email to this email address right there, and we can help you out. All right, so now we're going to do 2 demonstrations. We'll be using a test site for giving the demonstration, so just to let you know, if you see any names you recognize, just know it's not real information. It's one of our test sites we use, and we enter fake data all the time. Also, our programmers are still working out a few kinks, so we might run into a few snags. If we do, I'm sure they'll be sorted out by Thursday. All right, so let's see. Now we're gonna go to the demos. If anybody has any questions, now would be a good time to ask. Doesn't sound like we have any. Okay. So this is our test site. It's MIV demo. You can see up in the URL. Also, you can tell it's our test site because there's this huge red banner warning letting us know it's the non-production system. And also there's a watermark here. Okay, so the first demonstration, I'm going to show you how to create a leave for yourself as a candidate. And I am not an academic, so I'm going to assume our vice provost's identity. I'm going to proxy his account. As an academic, obviously, you will not have to do this. You will just log in to MIV, and you'll see the forms feature has been added. Your homepage will look a little different. Up here in the upper left-hand corner, there's the forms section. And right now, we have just one link here, Manage Forms, and this is how you access the forms application. So for candidates, when you log into the Forms app, you're going to have 2 sections. You have this first section to create a form, which is how you create a form. And then the second section, your forms. And this is where all of your past and present leaves will appear, regardless of what stage they're at, if they're approved or in the process of being approved. You can see Dr. Cass has several already, and they're in different states here. So there's one awaiting his signature. There's one at the vice provost level, waiting for a decision, and two at the department level. So to create a leave for yourself, you would select leave from the drop-down menu here. It's going to list all of the available forms. Right now, there's only one available form, so leave is the default. Like I said, we'll be adding near relatives soon. So we'll have at least 2 of them in the next couple of months. So you would just select leave and then click start. So right off the bat, you see some information here about yourself, your name, your ID, your titles, your departments. This information is being pulled from APHID. So if you see anything wrong with the information here, you can contact your department. And so far, we only see one question from the leave form. It's asking you, what kind of leave are you requesting? And these are very broad categories. We aren't expecting academics to know the UC path types or which specific type they should pick. So we're just asking the candidates to select the broad category. So we'll say it's going to be a parental leave. And once you choose the broad category, the leave form opens up and a bunch of questions are being asked. You can see if I change it to professional development, I don't know if you noticed that, but some of the questions changed. So depending on what category you pick is going to determine what questions you're asked on the form. Okay. All right, so then you just go through and answer the questions to the best of your ability. Will you receive other income while on leave? No. What dates will you be gone for professional development? Let's say you're going to be gone November 1st through November 14th. Is this an extension of a previous leave? No. Address while on leave. Let's say
while you're filling that in, Lara, we do have one question in the chat.
Okay.
Somebody is wondering, for faculty members who have joint appointments, is each department required to approve the leave request? And the answer is yes, each department will be involved in reviewing that request, and then it will go to all of the department chairs of each department that person holds. And then from there, it will go to both dean's offices if it's 2 different schools that they're a part of, or just the one dean if both departments are in the same school. But yes, it will go to all of their departments.
Okay, great. Thank you for answering that. Okay, so I've entered an address. I don't know if you noticed, but when I started typing in this address while on leave field, I got another question. Is this an international address popped up? And that's because sometimes the way you answer one question is going to determine whether or not more questions are brought up. And I'll show you again in another situation. I'm going to say, no, it's not international. This is the reason or specific purpose. So as an academic, you definitely want to fill this in with as much information as possible to help your department person select the correct UC Path leave type. I'll say attend professional conference. If you have leave documentation, you can upload it here. So, okay, so here's an example of how sometimes when you answer a question, it will make other questions pop up. So if I say, no, I'm not a principal investigator, I just move on to the next question. However, if I select yes, I get another question. Will you be selecting a substitute? I can say yes, and then I have to name a substitute and answer whether the sponsoring agency has approved the substitute. That's how that works. I'm just going to select no. How will your work be covered while you leave? Okay, so I've filled out my form to the best of my ability as a candidate, and now I have a couple of choices here. I can save this form as a draft. So let's say I don't know the exact address where I'm going to be during my leave. I can just save it and come back to it later um, from the Manage Forms link and finish it then. I can also exit without saving. Um, if you click this button, it's going to delete your form, and if you need to create it again, you'll have to start from scratch. Or you can send form. And by sending form, you're submitting it to your department, because remember, your department is going to have to select the actual leave type, and they will also have other questions on the leave request that you are not seeing. So for example, you just are entering the service dates, the actual dates when you're going to be gone, and your department's going to have to enter the pay period dates. We don't expect academics to know what the pay period dates would be. Okay, so that's how you would create a form for yourself as an academic. Let's see.
We do have another question.
Okay.
So the question is, will MIV know if a report, and I'm guessing this person means a sabbatical report, is due prior to submitting a new sabbatical request? Unfortunately, that is not a feature we'll have right now. It's definitely something we've talked about, but the problem at the moment is that MIV has no way of knowing whether a report has been submitted for a previous sabbatical, because those reports have been routing through Forms Online. So in the future, once things have been routing through MIV for a while and the reports are routing through MIV, there would definitely be a mechanism for MIV to do a check against itself to see, has a report been submitted? If not, then perhaps send an email requesting one, or ideally what we're hoping is that when a sabbatical is submitted in MIV, and on the last day of that sabbatical leave, that MIV would generate an email reminder to the faculty person to let them know that their report is due. So there's a couple of features that we're hoping to incorporate in the future, but for right now, while we're in this transition period of moving out of Forms Online, it's there's really no way to track that. So stay tuned for that in the future.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so I've just created a form for myself while proxying a candidate. I'm going to go back into Manage Forms. And so you've submitted your form to your department. Your department has completed the form, entered the pay dates, entered the UC Pass specific leave type. And once they're done with the form, they're actually going to submit the form back to you. And they do this so you can sign off on it for a couple of reasons. Obviously, we want you to confirm all the information, make sure everything that's entered is accurate. Also, if it's an unpaid leave or a partially paid leave, there's a statement that you are going to need to acknowledge that you understand how an unpaid leave might affect your benefits. Also, if it's a sabbatical leave, there's a box you're going to have to check that you acknowledge you read the rules regarding the return to service requirements and some other details from the Office of the President. So each form is going to come back to you, whether you start it or your department starts it, and you'll review it and you will sign off on it. And you'll know a form is ready for your review because you're going to get an email notification. So once your department sends it for your signature, you'll get an email. It's just like how it works with the disclosure certificate. So you'll get an email saying you need to sign. And to sign it, you just go back into the Manage Forms page, and you can see here there's a faculty medical leave that has a status of applicant signature requested. And so to review your leave, you just click on the link. It takes you to a review page, and you just review it. and check any boxes. If this was an unpaid leave, there'd be a box down here that talks about the benefits information. I would just check it, saying I'm acknowledging I know how my benefits could be affected, and you have some choices again. You can exit the form. It'll just stay with you, and you can come back and sign it later. You might review the form and notice that there's something inaccurate that needs to be changed. And in that case, you would contact your department, let them know what's wrong. They might ask you to return it, and then you would click this button, return to department for edit. It'll go back to them, they'll fix it, and then it'll come back to you. If you review it and you think everything looks correct, you would just click sign form. Once you click sign form, it's gonna move on to your department chair is next in line to review and sign off on it. Or if you have joint departments, it would go to your joint department chair first. And then it would route all the way through the process until it gets approved. And once it's approved, you'll get another email letting you know that your leave request has been approved. So that's how an academic would create a form for themselves. Okay.
There's another question.
Okay.
So for a medical leave request, is it required to upload a document from a medical professional? So there is a place to upload documents. It's called leave documentation, I believe, is the name of the upload on the form. I don't believe it is required for medical leave. It's definitely required for sabbatical leave. You have to upload a sabbatical statement. But for other types of leaves, it's an optional upload, and that's because there's just a lot of other types of leaves where documentation wouldn't really make sense, so we can't necessarily require it, but that is where you could upload that sort of information. And you will still be required, Lara will, well, I don't know if we're going to go through a medical form, so we might not actually see this, but when you select a type that is eligible for FMLA, staff in the department will be required to check a statement certifying that the FMLA forms are on file in the department. So we don't necessarily expect you to upload these forms, but we would expect you to have them on hand in your department if they were to be requested by our office. So hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, so now we're going to do demo number 2, and this will be a demonstration of a staff person creating a leave on behalf of an academic. And again, I'm not a department staff person, so I'm going to have to proxy a department staff person in Dr. Cass's department. Okay. You, of course, as a department admin, will not need to proxy anybody. You'll just log into MIV as usual, and here in the upper left-hand corner, you'll click on Manage Forms. So for staff, the Manage Form page has 3 sections. We have Create a Form section, which is where you go to create a form. Has a Your Work section. This section will contain any leaves that you created. It will also contain any leaves that you have pinned. If you want to move things from available work to your work, you can pin them, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. And then there's the available work section. And these are leaves that are at your location and they're available for you to work on. They could have been created by you, they could have been created by a colleague in your department, or they could have been created by the candidate. But either way, these are all available for you to work on. If you want to move a leave from available work to your work, you can pin it. It's very simple. You just click the little pin icon, and you can see once I click pin, it changes color and it goes upright. And then if I refresh the page, you'll see it has moved to the Your Work section. So if you want to keep all of the items you're working on in one place, that's a good way to do it, to keep an eye on things. You can also unpin them. You would just click it again, And then you can see it changes to a gray color and slanted position. And then if I refresh the page, you can see it's moved back down to available work. The available work section by default shows you all of the leaves that are in process that are available for you based on your assigned departments, schools, and colleges. You can also click complete and it'll show you a list of all of the forms that have a final decision in your scope, and then canceled. And we don't actually support canceling, but that should be in our next release, where you can cancel a leave after it has been approved. Okay, so if an applicant has started a draft and sent it to you, like we just did, or I just did for Dr. Cass, it's going to appear down here in available work, and it will be at the department draft status, not really a location, it's a status. Also, any forms created by you or a colleague of yours in your department, but it hasn't been sent to the applicant yet for a signature, will have the department draft status. Okay, so now let's start a leave for an academic. So again, same thing, you want to choose the correct form. Right now, the only form we have is the leave form. And you are going to search for the academic, create a leave for Phil Cass, and click start. So again, you can see this is pulled in information about Dr. Cass from APHID. And it looks different because you have the broad category of the type of leave you're requesting, and then the second drop down for the actual leave type. So if we open this menu, you can see this list of UC Path leave types that are available for Dr. Cass. They might be a little different based on whether someone's academic year or fiscal year. For example, vacation leave is now a leave type, and Dr. Cass is eligible because he's a fiscal year academic, but academic year academics would not, that option would not show up for them. So you could, if you know the exact leave type you're looking for, select it from this long list, or you can select the broad category first. So like select personal illness, and then when you go to select the actual UC Path leave type, you'll see that the list is much smaller. So these are all the personal illness leave types. Or you can select family medical, and you can see they've changed. So these are all the family medical leave types. So we're going to create a sabbatical. And we're going to do, so you can see there are two options, faculty sabbatical in residence. We're going to pick faculty sabbatical. So as I mentioned earlier, while PPS is still up and running, we're going to display the equivalent PPS leave type on the leave form. So it started here, it knows it's a sabbatical, but then we have a couple of dots after it because it's not, doesn't have all the information yet to know which PPS leave type is equivalent. You can see here sabbatical credits available. So this number is coming from APHID. This is part of that project I spoke about earlier. So APHID now knows how many sabbatical credits every academic has on campus. We're going to pull that number in, and rather than entering a carry forward, you're going to enter the number of sabbatical credits that are going to be used for this sabbatical leave. So we're going to say Dr. Cass is going to go on a 2-quarter sabbatical. So he's going to use 18 credits. And then you just go through and answer your questions. Will be a paid leave, block, full pay. So right when I did that, you can see the equivalent PPS leave type is now complete. So it's a sabbatical at full salary. You can also click partial, and you can see it change, sabbatical at partial salary, which opened up another question for what percentage of paid appointment while on leave. So we're just going to say he's on full sabbatical. Again, if you work in the School of Medicine or the School of Nursing, if someone is in the comp plan, you'd select yes to this question, and then you get a box where you can explain the salary distribution while on leave. He is not in the comp plan. Will you receive other sources of income? No. And then here, this is nice. When you select the quarters that are affected by this sabbatical, we're saying he's going on a 2-quarter long sabbatical. We're going to say winter. So put in the winter quarter dates. So January 1st to March 31st. But we're going to say he's going to be gone in spring too. So that changed the pay period end date to the end of June. So here we have, like I said, pay period dates, and down here, service period dates. UCPath is going to require 5 dates, actually. The 2 begin dates, the 2 end dates, and then also the pay period return date. And that's automatically generated. They just add 1 day to whatever the pay period end date is. This is not an extension of a previous leave. You only have to enter an address if it's different from your home address. We'll just say he's going to be home. Specific reason or purpose for the leave. We're going to say finish writing my book. So sabbatical leave statement. So this is required for sabbatical leaves, as Michelle mentioned earlier. You can drag and drop a file here, or you can click it if you want to upload a leave documentation. So you can see the leave documentation PDF is there. And then when it moves on to the review page, the reviewers will be able to click a link and read the PDF. Are you a PI? No. How will your work be covered? We'll say Michelle will do it. If leave is granted, how will the applicant's classes be distributed? Let's say no classes this quarter. Oh, these quarters, I should say. There's 2 quarters. Additional comments if you have something else you want to add. All right. So as a department admin, you can save this as a draft. If you get halfway through it and then have to run to a meeting, you can click Save Draft, and that will just save. Since you created it, it'll save in that middle section your work. It'll automatically be pinned. You can also exit without saving. Say, Dr. Cass called me halfway through filling out this form, that he changed his mind. Just exit without saving. It'll just delete the form. Or, since you've now completed the form, you can submit and request applicant signature. And so let's see. So once you click that button, the applicant's going to get an email letting them know a form is ready for their signature. Once the applicant signs the forms, it goes on to joint departments or their department chair, routes through the process. They'll get an email once it's approved, and you as the department admin or school admin will also get an email notification that it's been approved. So let me go back. Any questions so far? Okay, I mentioned earlier that you can sign in place of an applicant only when absolutely necessary, and I will show you how to do that. Martin Smith has medical leave, applicant signature requested, say he's in the hospital, or for some other reason just is not physically able to sign his form. I'm still the department admin here, so I'm just going to open the form, go down to the bottom, and there's a little button here. The applicant is unable to sign, and I will be signing in their place. So you can check this box, and then it's required that you enter a justification for signing in their place. So you need to describe why the candidate is unable to sign. And then you can sign for them and sign on their behalf, and it will move along. Okay, a couple more things to show you. So here we have all of the leaves that are in progress available for you to work on. But if you'd like to search for a form that's not at your level, but you know it's out there somewhere, you can search for it by using the user search box up here in the upper right-hand corner. You've probably used this for actions in the past. Very useful. You just search the last name, first name, whatever you want. Click on the person, and it's the same page you go to for actions. So you see the user summary, and then you see the current actions and the past actions. And just remember, this is just a test database. These are all fake actions that were created for testing purposes. And then down here at the bottom, we have current forms. These are all active forms that don't have a decision yet. And if you had any forms that did have a decision, we'd have past forms down here, just like there's current actions, past actions, current forms, and then there'd be archived past forms down here. But he doesn't have any yet that have been approved. That's how you can find forms you know exist that are not in your queue. Okay, finally, access to the forms feature is automatic for all academics. So it does not have to be granted to them, but it's not automatic for all staff. It's an additional role on top of your regular staff role. A staff person can have access to only actions or only forms, or they can have access to both. And the dean's offices have been identifying staff this week who should have the forms role once it goes live on Thursday. So most likely you'll already have access when you log in on Thursday morning. But let's say you have a new department person starts next week and you want to give them the forms role. This is how you would do it. You would just edit a user's account like you would for actions. I'm going to look up the department administrators in my department, and I'm going to click on Bobby Lasky. So you can see here, Bobby is department admin in population health and reproduction. Currently, she only has access to actions, but we want to grant her access to forms. So you just check the forms checkbox and click save. And so now Bobby has access to both actions and forms. Let's see. Okay. I think that's it. Actually, I will show you where you can find resources on our website. This is our website. If you go to Tools, go down to MyInfoVault. If you go to Training and Resources, if you click here, we have some user guides for academics. There's a link here, how to request a leave. So if you're an academic, you would click this and it shows you step-by-step instructions with screenshots and everything. If you are a department chair or a dean, or if you want to give instructions to your department chair or your dean, you can show them this link, how to sign a recommendation or decision on a leave request. User guides for staff. So here's the link to how to create a leave request for an academic. Demo number 2, which I did today. There's a play-by-play right there. And then the conversion chart. I mentioned there's a leave type conversion chart for PPS leaves to UC Pass leaves. So this is useful. As you can see, it's not one-to-one because there are a lot more UC Pass leave types, but this would definitely help you choose the right leave type. See, there's a lot of them. Okay. Well, that's all I have for the demonstrations. We have a couple more sessions. I think there are 3 more online training sessions, and then we're going to post at least one of them to our website. So you can tell your friends. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Okay, well, you are free to go or stick around. I'll stay on the line, and Michelle will also for a few more minutes to see if anybody has questions. Oh, it looks like I do have a question. When does this go live? This goes live on Thursday morning, November 1st. You should come in and log in and have access to forms at MIV. Okay, I think I will stop the recording now.